Hi, how are you? I've been seeing more and more reports, even now in mainstream media, about the 28 redacted pages in the 9/11 Commission report. And many people are now claiming that the information in those pages implicates Saudi official involvement in possibly funding the hijackers for the attacks on September 11th. If those claims were ever able to be verified and that information was actually released to the American public, what effects do you think that would have on U.S.-Saudi relations?
I mean, the 28 pages certainly ought to be released.
Right.
But I suspect what they're probably going to reveal is just the total incompetence of the intelligence agencies and the political leadership, who had plenty of evidence that something like this was likely to happen, but just didn't pay attention to it because they were interested in something else. Mm-hmm. The chances that it will implicate the government in 9/11, I think, are minuscule. I mean, just think it through. If the Bush administration had been involved in any way and was in a position to kind of shape the perception of what happened, what would they have done? They would have blamed Iraqis. They wouldn't have blamed Saudis. Their main goal at the time was to invade Iraq, not Saudi Arabia. That's their ally. You have to protect them. In fact, the fact that Saudis were implicated was a big embarrassment. The Bush administration had to break its own laws and fly its rich Saudi friends out of the country when there was supposed to be, air control. They wanted desperately to invade Iraq. If they had blamed Iraqis, they would have had overwhelming support for the invasion. They wouldn't have had to invent stories about weapons of mass destruction, which discredited them when they exploded. Even crazier stories about connections between Saddam and al-Qaeda. They wouldn't have had to resort to torture, most of which was directed by Rumsfeld and Cheney to try to get some piece of information that would link Iraq to 9/11. They would, and we know what the effects, quite apart from the moral and other dimensions, what the effects of the exposure of torture were. I mean, unless they're totally insane, they couldn't have been involved. So I don't think the 28 pages, which should be opened, are going to reveal that. I suspect what they'll reveal is the usual incompetence and lack of concern for extremely serious threats. I mentioned a much more serious one, the lack of concern to try to block ICBMs with hydrogen bomb warheads. That's mind-boggling. Fortunately for power, nobody talks about it. But that's the kind of thing I would expect to be exposed. But it should be released. We should find out. So there should be pressure.
Thank you.